Hello and welcome to Studio Wesley Cafe once again. This is season 2, episode 4, our last episode of this little short mini season, where I've been sitting down, metaphorically, virtually, with team members and talking about two things. What types of art that they have been engaging with and that has been accessible to them lately, and then a specific piece of art or body of art that has been impactful to them this year. If you haven't listened to the first 3 episodes, I highly recommend. I sit down with Samuel, I sit down with Tess, I sit down with Grace, and I've been super pleased and surprised where the conversations have gone, and honestly surprised to hear about even the kinds of art and that has been accessible to people, because it's like so different from my own experience, and that's the beauty of it, and it's made me really reflect on even more ways that I am engaging with art and expressing myself artistically. So yes, if you haven't listened to those episodes, definitely circle back. And I'm about to sit down with Eliot, and it was an amazing conversation that I had with Eliot. We talk about fashion, we talk about music, and music specifically for the summertime that makes us feel good, that makes us nostalgic. And we talk about some books. We have a really good combo. I think you're really going to enjoy it, so definitely stick around for that. And yes, I hope you have enjoyed season 2. Definitely, if you haven't circled back to season 1, I highly recommend. We have 2 different types of episodes in season 1, where we talk about both an art club that we have, where we have different prompts, and then we each pick a piece of art that fits with the prompt, and then we discuss. And then we also have some current events segment that we just chat about stuff that's happening currently in the context of everything we do here at Studio Wesley. So yes, tune in, thank you, and enjoy. Hello, Eliot.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. I feel like I haven't seen you virtually in a second.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Felt
How
like it
are
at
you?
least.
How'd your semester
I'm doing
finish
good. It finished up well, actually. I had a class that was a little difficult, but we got to the grind and we finished strong. So
up? Okay. Good to
yeah, yeah,
hear.
yeah.
What's your summer looking like? Doing anything fun?
Just chilling, honestly, taking the time to relax a little bit before I have to go back,
Yeah. When do your classes start back?
like mid to end of August.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So
The schools here in Atlanta, there's the high school and middle school and whatever. They start back in July.
July, that sounds awful.
I know. I'm like, that's barely a summer. Like, what is that? It's so weird. So I'm grateful for that. I also start grad school in August, so I understand
Oh,
your
yay.
yeah. So I'm gonna be back on that academic grind as well. It'll be something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining me on this episode of Studio Wesley Cafe.
Sure.
This kind of second season, it's like a super short season, and I've just been asking some kind of more broad questions about the ways people on our team have been engaging with art. So I want to ask you a few questions, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So the first question I want to ask is, what types of art have you been engaging with the most recently? So this could be literally anything. This could be music, movies. It could be if I don't know if you've been super into writing lately. What kind of art do you think you've been engaging with? What's been accessible to you lately?
Yeah, so I think a lot of things off the top of my head though, recently I've been going in thrifting clothes that
Mm.
specifically don't fit me, right? Bring them back, and then I like sew and like make it so that like I make my own kind of clothes from like the thrift clothes. Like that's something that I've been doing. Like it's like I found these jorts that are like really skinny, like way too small, and then I basically cut them. I got a donor pair of jeans, and I made my own like flared jorts from them. So that's something I've been enjoying recently. Just finding repurposing clothes and things like that. Also, another thing, just like music. Like I don't know what it is, but whenever the summertime rolls around, like I always get into like reggae music, like Bob Marley. Like I just start like liking that type of music. And so I went to the beach the other day and I was just bopping reggae like all day. And it's something about that type of music that just gets you in a good summer mood. I don't know how to explain it. And then another album I've been listening to recently is So Much Fun by Young Thug. That album came out in the summer when I was like in a junior in high school, and like I listened to that song all summer. So that album has like been like a summer album for me ever since. So I'm just listening to that all summer as well. Um, so yeah, those are my music selections, but also like just thrifting. I've really been enjoying repurposing clothes, and also I have a clothing brand too. So I've been working on my own clothes, just like working on creating things, finding inspiration from honestly going to thrift stores and seeing old clothes. Like it's a really good place to find inspiration because you see so many different types of fashion and different types of things that people wear around my city. So that's something that's been interesting for me.
That is so cool, Eliot. You're actually the second person. I don't know if you've watched the other interviews, but Grace, who I did the last episode with, was talking about
Okay.
clothing as well. And I think that's so interesting because when I'm like making these questions, of course I have like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure people will answer this. I'm sure people will answer this. I did not anticipate that like clothing would be such a like popular art form, I guess, amongst people. And I think that's so cool. When did you learn how to sew and stuff?
So actually, I didn't really even like learn. I just kind of like mangled it. Like, so my mom has a sewing machine, and I just kind of like learned how to like kind of just like do it myself, like that. But at the beginning, I literally just took it to my grandparents, and they would just do it. So it was like just watching and figuring out, like learning from experience. But I don't get into the with the needle, and I don't do none of that. It's just the pure like I use the machine. It's nothing too fancy. But
I mean, that's
but
still
yeah, and
impressive.
YouTube. So
Yeah. I think that's still impressive. I know like one hand because I also love to thrift and I also love to like repurpose clothing. Um
mhm.
and I'm not as I'm I have this feeling that yours probably looks better than mine because I get really creative. I start putting safety pins on stuff. I have fabric glue. Like sometimes I glue
That's
stuff.
sick though. That's cool though. Like
I'm like,
there's fashion though no knows no bounds. So
I agree, and so it's very fun. It's been really fun here in Atlanta too. I don't know if you've ever tried this, but there's a bunch of like screen printing stuff that they do here
mm,
too. So you can like
uh-huh.
bring old T-shirts and stuff that you have, and they'll teach you how to like put prints on it and stuff. So there's so
That's
many fun
cool.
ways, and I feel like it's so sustainable. Like I feel like that's the way that we get fast fashion to stop is by just
Hmm.
like we don't need fast fashion, we can do it ourselves.
Exactly.
And I think that's so cool.
Yeah, I always used to say like fashion can cost a lot of money, right? But like you don't have to pay to find style. Like
I
that's what I always
agree.
tell myself.
I
So
1000% agree. And I'm trying to remember if I went on this tangent on the last episode, but I follow all of these like fashion influencer people online um,
mhm.
who like talk about trends, like fashion trends. And a lot of them agree that like we're in this kind of interesting era of fashion where like because of fast fashion, the like trend cycle started to go so fast. Because usually it was like before it was like you're like 20 years or something, like
Mhm.
things come back around in like 20-year cycles. But it started
Yeah.
to get so fast because of the way fast fashion was producing clothes that it kind of broke the like trend cycle. And
Mhm.
now like personal style is like really emerging for people. Like people are kind
Yeah.
of like focusing less on what like the social trends are and more on like what they think is cool and what like their self-expression is. And I think that's really sick.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's how it's supposed to be. Like, we get these trends, like there's nothing wrong with trends. Like, there are trends for a reason, right? Like, people like these things for a reason. But I feel like it's one thing to just wear trends like you're a walking billboard, and there's another thing to just be you. Like, that's the most important thing in my opinion. Like, just be you and wear what you want to wear, because at the end of the day, like, fashion isn't for anyone else but you. Like, it's made for you to wear and for you to enjoy. So I feel like it's all about how you feel about it and what you want to wear. Like, no one, when it comes to fashion, no one's opinions matters other than yours, because you're the only one wearing the clothes.
100%. Yeah. And people can tell whenever you're like I've seen people wearing some really wacky, quirky outfits, and if they're wearing them confidently, I'm like, that person's cooler than me. You know what I mean? I'm like,
yeah.
They're cooler than me because they're doing that, and I'm not doing that. You know, like, I think that's awesome. And you know, like a lot of people have also talked about music as like an accessible art that they've been engaging with. I think that's very common. I think with streaming and with the way that music is just like made so accessible to us, it makes sense that like music is so like integrated into like so many of our like day-to-day. And I love that you mentioned reggae. I've very recently met, like here in Atlanta, there's like a community of like Caribbean people, so like people who are like Puerto Rico, from the DR, from, you know, or Jamaican or whatever. And so I've been learning a lot about like different Caribbean music styles, and like how like reggaeton obviously has its roots in like reggae. And I don't know, it's so like, I think it's so, there's a reason why it feels so good in the summertime, because it like comes from these places where like something about the beach just feels so like fun and like danceable, and like there's just, I feel like such a culture that goes along with it of like community and like relaxing and like leisuring on the beach, and like I don't know how long you've been into reggae, but there also was that Bob Marley movie that came out. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah. I haven't seen it yet. I need to see it, but like, I need to see it because all my friends have seen it. I haven't seen it yet. But it's not just reggae too, like Afro beats. Like, I've been into a ton. Like, I've been listening to Burna Boy so much this summer. Like, I can't even. Like, I've been listening to, matter of fact, Burna Boy, Bob Marley. I've been listening to Lauryn Hill this summer too. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, like one of the best albums of all time. The Miseducation. Like,
it is.
I've just been listening to that so much. So all those things together, and like, she had a song with Bob Marley. It's called "Turn Your Lights Down Low." Do you know that song? That song is so good. Like, oh my gosh, I sing my heart out in my car to that song. I don't know what it is. That song is so good. But like, that type of music this summer has just been like my like summer, like, it's been in my summer playlist like every year, but like this summer specifically, I've just been like bopping them like crazy.
Honestly, you're inspiring me. I'm gonna listen to Lauryn Hill today because, like, of course.
Yeah, Lauryn Hill's great.
She's an icon, an absolute icon.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which I think that she was like on tour recently or something.
Yeah, I forget. I remember seeing it on Instagram. I forget when, but imagine going to see Lauryn Hill live. That'd be crazy.
I know. I'm like, I was so jealous. I was like, she didn't come anywhere near Atlanta. I'm like, fine, like whatever, but you know, I'd reconsider because I know you have a lot of fans here, Lauren. But I probably couldn't afford the tickets anyways. So yeah. Well, okay, so tell me, what is an art piece, like a specific one or like specific body art that you feel like has been like impactful to you this year?
So I've actually been reading a lot of books this summer, or let me rephrase that. Been trying to read a lot of books this summer. So one of the books that I've particularly enjoyed is, let me grab it here. It's called Relentless. It's by Tim Grover. He was actually Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, Charles Barkley, a whole bunch of Hall of Fame NBA players. He was their like private trainer. So, and
Mm.
he wrote this book, and this book has been like so good. Like, so I'm an athlete, right? So for me, I feel like I always have to be like moving or doing some sort of training or something like that. And this book really helps me to like push myself to do those types of things. And also not even just that, but like career wise, academically, like for my business, like all different things of that nature. Like it gets something about reading like books like that just helps me in my brain. It's just be like keep going, and it gives me like some sort of something to relate to when I'm working hard. So it's like it reminds me to continue to work hard and not to like set back, even though it's the summer. So this book is a book that I have really enjoyed. I'm not even finished with it yet. I've read it before. This is actually my like second or third time rereading it, but it's a really good book. I would recommend it to everyone. And yeah.
Yeah. Can you give me like a overview of kind of like what he talks about in the book?
Yeah. So he discusses a lot of things, but he talks about three different types of people in life. He talks about what does he say? He says that there is a cleaner, which is like at the top, like that's the peak. There's a cleaner, there's a closer, which is kind of in the middle, and then there's a cooler or something like that. And basically, they're like three separate types of people. He actually has in here some descriptions. If I can find them. Okay, right here. So he says like coolers worry about the competition and how they measure up. Closers study the competition and plan their attack based on the opponent. Cleaners make the competition study them. They don't care what they're facing because they know they can handle anyone. So it's like three different mindsets in life. And I feel like when I read these things and look at these different types of people, I can identify different types of people in my life who I know, okay, so people act like this. This is how they live their life. And not to say that there's anything wrong with that, but like as an observation, it's interesting looking at how people live and looking at, what they do on a day-to-day basis and kind of comparing that to what he says in here. And there's a lot more definitions. Like I'm not reading everything, but
Yeah.
yeah, I want to be that like that cleaner, that person who doesn't quit, who has an amazing career, who has that mentality. Because at the end of the day, it's all about like mindset. Like if you can have a good mindset about anything, then you can accomplish anything. And I truly believe that. So yeah.
I love that. Honestly, I feel like I think like books, like motivational books and like self-help books, however you want to define it, can be so interesting because I feel like at least in my experience, I don't want to project onto you, but I've read, quite a few. And
Mm-hmm.
some of them I read and I'm like, oh, that was nice. And then it just like, whatever. And some of them I read, I'm like, oh, yeah, like that kind of resonated, whatever. And then there's like that one that like,
Yeah,
I'm just
I know
like,
what you mean.
that resonated so deeply with me.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's really interesting how you just have to find the one that's like, gives you some kind of like framework that can really help. And I feel like, at least right now, I don't know if you've heard of the book, The Courage to Be Disliked. I feel like a lot of people are talking about it right now online or whatever. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really love the book, but one of the kind of premises is that like um working from like a philosophical framework that like our own happiness and like we have agency over our happiness in the way that we engage with like the suffering and stuff in our life. Like we're not just
Mm-hmm.
victims of like whatever's happening around us, and we have to like move ourselves out of that mindset of like victimhood and reclaim like our agency into like making our life what we want it to be and experiencing our life how we want to. And I think about that a lot, and I feel like a lot of motivational literature, that's like a key premise in it, is that like, you know, we have agency and like we can make the best out of our circumstances. We have that
Hmm.
ability to, whatever circumstances you may be in, to take it and like grow from it, and like
Yeah.
refuse to like let it, you know, discourage you and knock you down, and instead use it
Hmm.
for your own growth and stuff. Um, I don't know. I feel like that's so important. And I feel like it's kind of like a both and, where it's like, I think it's so important for young people to be like, exploring the social mechanisms that, have gotten us where we are today. And also like learning about stuff like the economy and why it's so crazy right now. And you know what I mean? And like why we're all
Uh-huh.
poor, like that kind of stuff. But simultaneously, like, I don't know. Maybe it's just the spaces I'm in, but sometimes I'm kind of like, but also, guys, like, we're the only ones that are in charge of our own happiness. You know what I mean? Like, we have
Hmm. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
like, claim that.
Yeah. I feel like also like some books, like for me, like I know some people who would get a book and like be like, okay, I have to read this all the way through, and they'll read a book and then they'll move on to the next one. Like, I can't operate like that. My ADHD brain, like, if I read a book and I don't like it, I'll literally just throw it away and never read it again. Like, I have so many books on my bookshelf that I thought were crazy interesting. I got it and I read 2 chapters and I got bored and I moved on to a different book. So I feel like you said, like it depends on which book. Like certain books, uh, can give you that that idea or something that kind of clicks in your brain. There's another book I've actually been reading recently that I was looking at. Hold on, what's it called? Oh yeah, this book. So obviously, right, I have a clothing brand. I like to do things with clothes and fashion, and I like to be creative in that space. But this is a book that I've also been reading. It's called Creativity, the Psychology of Discovery and Invention. Now
Mm.
I'm gonna give you a quick like warning. Like it's pretty kind of hard to read. It's written by this guy whose name I'm not even gonna try to pronounce.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, his last name is a book in itself, but
Yeah.
he's like a scientist or something. Oh no, he's a psychologist who did like a study on creativity, and it's actually really interesting. Like obviously, I don't read this all through. I skip through bits because sometimes he just yaps for like a good chapter. Like I don't
Yeah.
really care about like the H2O in the brain and how that impacts me. But
I
like,
feel like academics always are yap,
yeah,
or they're gonna,
yeah,
one thing
yeah,
about them, they're gonna add some extra words that you don't need in there.
yeah. I know. But if you can get past that, this is a really good book. I feel like it really helps you understand like the thinking process of like how you can be creative. It sounds kind of silly that there's a science to creativity, which I still don't fully understand, but it is interesting how people's thought processes like happen and like how people come up with different ideas. Like that is interesting to me.
Mm. So I would love to hear more about your clothing brand. Like what's your process with your clothing brand? What kind of stuff do you design? Like I want to hear more about that. And also if you have an Instagram or whatever, you should plug that here because I want to know.
Okay. Yeah, so it's growthproject.us. That's our website and our Instagram.
Okay.
And it's called Growth Project. And honestly, I started it last year, and it's all about, so it's in kind of like the streetwear niche, right? So like streetwear type clothing.
Hmm.
And so what I do is I basically try to design my own like design whatnot, and then I don't create the clothes myself. I actually have a manufacturer that creates all the clothes and sends it to me in bulk. But that whole process is really complicated because like if you don't direct what if you don't get what your ideas is on paper in a way that they can understand it, they're gonna mess it up, which I learned the hard way.
Hmm.
But you have to learn. So I last let's see, my last drop was I did hoodies, obviously for the winter time, and now I'm doing like a t-shirt, but it's like a slight cropped, like oversized t-shirt. And my whole idea behind this brand is like it's called Growth Project. So I want it to be about like personal growth and how everyone goes through a process of growth in their lives, whether that's through negative experiences or positive experiences. Like it's different for everybody. So that was the idea behind it. And that growth is like a project, it's a journey, it's not something that just happens. So that's
Mm.
my idea behind it.
That's so cool, Eliot.
Yeah.
I think it's really sick that you're using your own creativity to like I don't know, I feel like clothing can be such a fun way to express yourself, but also
Hmm.
kind of like express values that are important to you, and then also like connect people with those values, like connect like,
Hmm.
oh, like these two people, have invested in this piece of clothing because they also care about this particular value. And
Yeah.
um and I think that like almost makes community.
Yeah. Really. Like that's the goal behind it, is to have a community of people who understand and believe in kind of the similar values that I'm kind of like pushing out. Like the whole point is to have like every brand has like a community, you know what I mean? Like whether that be an email list or like a community of people who represent a lifestyle with the clothing or something like that. And that's what my goal is, to like get people who want to live the lifestyle that the clothing portrays. Because at the end of the day, like when people purchase clothing, they're not like deep down, like they're buying it because it's a cool piece, but deep down they're buying it for the lifestyle of that piece, like of
Mhm.
what it portrays, of what it gives the person. It's just like art. Like when you go to a museum, you look at art, sometimes you like a piece and you don't know why you like it. It's because it's
Mm.
an innate thing inside your brain, because it's like you can relate to it in a way that sometimes you can't explain. And that's the goal, in my opinion.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, Elliot, unless there's something else you want to add about your brand or what you've been thinking about lately, I feel good and I'm about wrapping this up here. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for chatting with me today for a little
Yeah.
bit.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your summer and you're listening to reggae and Lauryn Hill, and that you relax, even though I can
Yes.
tell you're very much a very motivated person, and but you also relax. Both things are cool.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. All right. Well, that's that for today, folks. Thanks so much for sticking around, listening to my discussion with Eliot. I feel like I'm leaving this combo with, honestly, a very positive outlook on just the ways that art can, in our own self-expression and creativity, and offering that, can be something so connective and something that can really bring together community and can really help us identify people who have like have shared values and a shared mindset to us, and how I think art and self-expression serve so many different beautiful purposes, and one of those being bringing us together in community, which is like so important, and so important to me personally. So yes, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed season 2. Listen to season 1, listen to all the other episodes, and I'll see you when Studio Wesley season 3 pops up, and we'll get this rolling again soon. Thank you.